Welcome to the Oscar BC webinar on Greasemonkey. This is I can't remember, the third or fourth in a series of webinars, and there's definitely some interest here. We have three speakers, myself, Dr. Robertson, and apologies for truncating your name on the first page, that will be fixed, and Dr. Hurwitz, who basically started this going. He's the doctor who got me into Greasemonkey. I'll be very quick because I think the main part of this webinar is to show you what Oscar could be. It isn't everything that we need right now, and some very clever people have found ways to make it better. So Greasemonkey is basically an add-on. It only works in Firefox, and it will do things behind the scenes for you that are basically repetitive. So that's what I got off with the PDM. In plain language, what it will do for your Oscar is change your display. If you don't like how things are shown, you can modify that. It could give you quick links to various parts of the Oscar EMR. It could do functions that should have been built in, but were not. So you'll see this as we do our demonstration. If you ever wonder why didn't Oscar have this in the first place, well, other people have wondered the same thing, and clever folks like Dr. Hurwitz have figured out how to do it. So in the end, I look at Greasemonkey as a proof of concept for features that hopefully the real programmers are able to implement for all Oscar users. The Greasemonkey script is just a bunch of code, and for the coding geeks out there, and I know there are a few, that's what it looks like. A lot of it doesn't mean anything to me. This is the one from the booking screen, but when it's implemented, it looks like this. This is a booking screen when you book a patient who doesn't belong to the physician whose schedule you're adding it to. It pops up an alert saying there's a mismatch, and perhaps you might want to consider if this is correct or not. There are other Greasemonkey scripts in here. This is an encounter screen. This is one of I believe Dr. Robertson's screen. If you look at the bottom right corner, there are a whole bunch of colorful links that give you access to eForms and such. Your plain Jane Oscar probably doesn't have that. This is a screen that demonstrates how many Greasemonkeys are running in the background. So the little monkey icon on the top, if you click on that, it drops down a menu that shows which are active or inactive. And here's another one on the schedule page where if you look at the top left, you see some quick links that fast forwards your schedule 7 days, 10 days, 1 week, and so on and so forth. Again, it can be very handy for those who are booking appointments. And this is very distinctly different from what an eForm looks like, which is kind of this. This is a snippet from an eForm for the Kamloops Cardiology Group. And when you open that up, that's what you get. So there are tons of Greasemonkey scripts. There are too many. We won't be able to demonstrate all of them, but the ones that we find essential, Stan, John, and myself, will hopefully demonstrate in a moment or two. This is just a list of some of them.
Thanks, Cindy, to mention that if you have questions, you can put them on the chat, and Cindy will collect them all, and if we can't answer them in the webinar, we can come back to the chat later and have a look at those.
Yes, there'll be lots of time built into this webinar for Q&A. So if these are so great, why aren't they already in there? Why does my OSP install them for me? And the truth is, these are add-ons that are unique to each computer. Excuse me. There it goes.
So as John says, they're unique to each computer. So if you have everything set up the way you want on your computer, and other people in your group, in your office, want what you have, there is a simple way to export them from one computer and load them on to another computer, which we'll get to later. but they only also work in Firefox. They don't. There is a similar thing called TamperMonkey, which works in Chrome. The transformation is not completely smooth from Greasemonkey to TamperMonkey. There are a few steps involved in getting from one to the other. John's back.
Thank you, John. That was our mask announcement. Indeed, they are great features, but they need to be customized. And unfortunately, your OSP can't help you with them because they're not part of the Oscar program. They're actually part of Firefox on your computer. And if you use multiple workstations or multiple accounts on the same computer, they need to be added to each and every one. So there are some drawbacks. If you want to add Greasemonkey, it is an add-on. In a Mac system, you click on Tools, Add-on, search for Greasemonkey, and you install. Look for that cute little monkey icon. In a Mac system, in a Windows system, it's a little bit different. I don't know exactly where the add-on is, but it's similar. Just search for Greasemonkey, look for the cute icon, and off you go. Then you have to load up your Greasemonkey with scripts, and there's no better place to find it than Dr. Hurwitz GitHub repository, which is here. There are also Greasemonkey scripts on OCUS, Oscar Canada User Society website. And if you were to download, it kind of looks like this, and we may have a chance to show you a download. I'll leave that to Dr. Hurwitz, perhaps. But the easiest way to share a whole bunch of Greasemonkey scripts is to actually get the whole library from another user. So we can export our 50 or so Greasemonkey scripts onto a zip file, and you just upload it into your system. And the steps are as shown here. The problem, as I mentioned, the ugly truth is there is customization necessary to make them run smoothly, because you may have a different label for your measurements or your forms or your account users. If you want to see which ones you have after downloading them, they are under that little monkey icon. This is an example of what runs in the Oscar, in this case, the Juno version of Oscar. And for those keeners out there who want to start their own Greasemonkey scripts, there are some resources that Dr. Hurwitz shared with me. So this is where you get to see Greasemonkey in action. And this is the part we haven't rehearsed, but it is mostly going to be a live demo, hopefully with test patients. So I don't know who wants to take the lead on this, but I'm willing to stop sharing and let either John or Stan take it away.
You know, I see two questions here that we can just address fairly easily. A question about does Greasemonkey work on Chrome, which we sort of covered, and also another one about where you could download Greasemonkey. So Greasemonkey does not work on Chrome. TamperMonkey does work on Chrome. The Greasemonkey scripts are not immediately transportable to TamperMonkey right away. The code is slightly different and has to be modified. I will also interject that I know that there are certainly Oscar service providers that are encouraging people to use Chrome. Oscar was initially developed to be used best on Firefox. It can run well on Chrome as well, but purely in terms of where Oscar works best, purely in terms of Oscar itself and nothing else, it actually works best on Firefox. There are pluses and minuses to Chrome. Has been in the news a bit lately about how much data can be harvested if you're using a Chrome browser. So yes, you can use Chrome with Oscar. Yes, you can use Tampermonkey rather than Greasemonkey, and you can develop a similar pattern. I guess I would say that the reason why we are focused on Greasemonkey and focused on Firefox is because the Oscar program actually is designed first and foremost to be used on Firefox. Part two, the question was where do you download Greasemonkey? So I'm going to share my screen for just a second here, and it's pretty straightforward. If we go to our Firefox screen, which hopefully you're seeing my Firefox screen now. And if you go to the top right-hand corner where the three horizontal bars are, where it says Open Menu, and click on that, you then go down to where it says Add-ons, where that puzzle piece is, and you click on Add-ons. And then in the add-ons, you can search. You can see at the bottom of my screen that it says Greasemonkey right there, but pretending that it's not already there, I can type Greasemonkey and enter, and then I can go find that add-on, and it pops up this for me. And the top one here with a funny looking monkey, that is the one that I want. If I click on this, it will bring me to specifically the Greasemonkey add-on. And in my case, it says remove because it's already added. But in an instance of Firefox where it hasn't already been added, instead of saying remove, it would say add, and you would click that, and it would add this add-on to your Firefox. All right, back to you, John, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah, there was just another announcement a second ago. Thank you for demonstrating that, because I have a Mac system and in a Mac that is demonstrated on the slide. Maybe what I'll do is I'll start by screen sharing an encounter page and just showing you one of the things I find is essential when in my day-to-day work. So here we go. There, hopefully you can see my schedule for today. I've got Johnny Rotund booked for our Greasemonkey demo. Is that showing?
John, so you're using Firefox, correct?
I am.
And you are on Well.
I have a Well EMR version, I'm going to say 15. And yes, indeed, I'm using a Mac. And this is Firefox ESR.
So in other words, Firefox ESR works well with the Well EMR. You don't have any issues with that.
I don't have any issues. The Well OSP has been pushing their clients to Chrome. Unfortunately, Chrome, in my experience, has some limited functionality in terms of e-forms and such. Somebody can maybe confirm or refute this, but I don't think you can upload an e-form as a zip from Chrome, which greatly limits its usability. And it's claimed to be more secure, maybe not as true as intended. In any event, if you can see my screen, I'm going to open Johnny Rotund's chart. And what you'll see if you have a regular EMR setup, this takes a little bit longer. It's still loading. Now it's loaded. Is this first top line here is what will display, but the second and third line you will not see because that's part of Greasemonkey. This is a wonderful Greasemonkey script that Dr. Hurwitz created called Page Scraper. It basically takes the stuff from the demographics page, which is here, and redisplays it in the encounter page. So I see the home number. If there's a cell number, it's there, work number, address, and PHN. I've added additional things. I can send an email from here by clicking on that, if there was an email, a link to my Doxy website, a quick link to an EMR, and I have a Care Connect button, which I'll click to demonstrate. It won't work because I haven't logged in, but those who have Care Connect, it's a little slow, will recognize this. Okay, I won't demonstrate that today. That's not part of our webinar today. But having this phone number here is invaluable because I can click on that, goes to my clipboard, and I can paste that into my VoIP phone and dial out using my headset without having to lift up a handset. It's hands-free and I can type. It's wonderful. Down in the bottom right corner here, I have quick links to commonly used e-forms, such as, and I'll just make that disappear, the lab requisition. I mean, I use that on every other patient, it seems, right? One click and it's there. My vital signs. Instead of hovering and trying to land on that right spot, which is the old way here, hover and find your vital signs, I just click on that. The imaging reports, this is very, very powerful stuff. I have some fake labs for this pretend patient. If you want to see all your labs in one page, click on cumulative lab. And those who have tried inbox row display may recognize this. This is alphabetical. Without Greasemonkey, this is random. So it's really what should have been there in the first place. That's this lab result, hover over the plus sign, try and land on row display, and you'll get that. Okay, Greasemonkey makes this display. Watch what happens when I turn off Greasemonkey. It looks like that. That is not alphabetical. It's rather random, and you can't see the full list or the full name without hovering over it. So that's not very useful, is it? And those who have been using Oscar for a while might recognize this as the awesome search box where you can call up your lab. Mine's called 1.1, but this is an even better, an awesomer search box. Sorry, time out. So this new search box allows me to type in part of a word, lab, and look, it's the full name. And anywhere there's lab, you will get the name. So if I want the maternity lab, there you go. And if you've been following our listserv, there's a whole flurry of sleep apnea tests, e-forms called HSAT for home sleep apnea test, and here they are. If you try to do it from the old form or the old search, you get that, heavily truncated. And I no longer use the little plus sign to look for e-forms because it's very inefficient. So there you go. All these things from the encounter page, I couldn't get through my day without using every one of these functions.
So the one that Stanley made, the newer, awesomer search box, doesn't require the name, you to start with the beginning of the name. It can be somewhere in the middle, and you'll still, so if you type lab and you don't type 1.1 lab, you will still find all the labs that you need. So I find that very useful as well. My buttons on the bottom right-hand side are slightly different than John's for obvious reason, but I mean, the number of times, well, pretty much every single patient I see, I'm going to use at least one button on the bottom right there. And I've almost forgotten, well, not quite, how to find them the old-fashioned way, because it's just so much easier. I'll show you my screen again for just a second. John showed you a screenshot of this, but if I go to my fake patient, Jessica Rabbit, and find her chart, So the on the bottom right-hand side of my screen, I've got a bunch of things that are obviously a little bit more applicable to an obstetrician gynecologist. But what I want to point out here is that I can do more than just go to e-forms. I can also, as John mentioned, I can go to my my specific measurements and pull them up for the patient. But I can also go to websites as well. So there's the measurements, and I can fill those in again on her. But I can also, there's an online VBAC calculator that tells you what the chance is that in a subsequent pregnancy after a cesarean that a patient will be able to deliver vaginally. And that's a link to a web page. And so I can go straight to that web page. You can do that for up-to-date, or John's got something somewhat similar where you go to the Care Connect web page. But here I'm in maternal fetal medicine, and it's a VBAC calculator. And in a second here, it's going to ask me for the date, how old she is, how tall she is, what her weight is, and then it'll do the calculations for me. But I can just jump straight there for every patient that I'm being consulted on. I too have lab requisition and imaging requisition, pathology form, and of course, as a surgeon, I have the consent form, the pre-op tests, and the booking form. All of those things are right there for me. I can refer to the BC Cancer Agency right away by just clicking on that and going straight to the e-form that allows me to refer patients directly to the cancer agency. So, I mean, the amount of time that I save every single day by using Greasemonkey Scripts is enormous. The other thing that Dr. Hurwitz helped me with is that I have direct texting and emailing to my patients. I do have a Greasemonkey, sorry, a MailChimp Greasemonkey, right? I do have a MailChimp account that costs me pennies to email patients. And I do have something called a Twilio account, which costs me 0.01 of a cent per text to text patients directly from their chart. And when I type something in my box here and email it to them or text it to them, it will also paste it directly into their chart. This is a test that I did back in June, and I just typed the word test, and then I added a little bit of information. And then it says that this was emailed to, and I've put my own UBC email account in there. And then I also texted it. And of course, I texted it to my cell phone number. But the point of that being that's right in the patient's chart. It's documented that I've texted and emailed these patients, and I don't have to retype anything in there. And then I can just bill that I've communicated with the patient by email. So a number of ways that using these scripts, and thank you again, Dr. Hurwitz has stored those scripts as well on his GitHub account, so that those can be downloaded by anybody. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
All right, I'll take it away then.
Yeah.
Stan, if you have particular Greasemonkeys to demonstrate, please do.
All right, is that coming up now? My share screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so this is Accelera's test patient, new test patient. One of the most time-saving Greasemonkeys is the ability to take, this is dummy data from Accelera's, is to, from my inbox, to set up reminders, set up ticklers, and to highlight texts. So this is here, test patient. From here, I can say, read here, overall the patient has been well. I can highlight that. From here, if it's saved, if you'll take a look when I hit save, the author of the text, the author of the report comes up here, and this metadata will outline this yellow when you look at it in the patient's chart. If I want to set up an auto reminder, is it working? Can you hear me?
We may not be able to see the other layers of your windows. We can see your schedule screen.
Oh, okay. Let me just see how to get that then. Maybe I should just share the whole screen, and let me just see if I can get to that.
This brings up a really good point. It's not a Greasemonkey issue, although early on it was. To run Oscar in tabs as opposed to layers of windows. Again, that's my go-to default setup, so that we, so that I have every a page that's open on the same window, but on multiple tabs.
Okay, well, I think I'm sharing everything now.
Good.
Okay. Let's just see if it's working now. So these lab reports, is this showing now? The lab report? Great. So what happens here is I can find some text that I want to highlight. Do it there, hit highlight. When I said save, I'm not going to save it now. The author's name will appear. I'll just try and get this out here. The author's name will appear and the metadata will appear. So it saves those yellow. From here, I can send off an auto reminder. I want this patient to come back for a mammogram in 1 year. That will go into the patient's chart. It allows me to update the preventions. And in the patient's chart, there's an auto reminder. I can set up an auto tickler from here. This patient needs to come for a colonoscopy in 3 years. From here, it will say, okay, this colonoscopy is done. Recall for colonoscopy from here. If we now go to the patient's chart, I don't know if it's showing now. There's the reminder, mammogram, repeat due September 2022, tickler, recall for colonoscopy, all set up already with the date for recall. If you look at that label, the label, there's the name of the person who wrote the report. There's the metadata. When you bring up the report, the lines that I wanted would be highlighted. From here, I can also send an email directly to the patient. So this I find incredibly time-saving. From your inbox, you can directly go to your patient's chart without actually opening up the patient's chart.
Stan, you can also show them how you can paste it straight into their chart.
I will do that too. And from here, I can take this. If I want to paste this data into the patient's chart, save selected text to chart, and that's in the patient's chart. If I go and refresh this chart now, the report extract is in his e-chart. So it saves minutes per patient. There's that one. I've got the same thing with John here. This is the cumulative lab data. So this is without the sort. When we go to the sort, it looks like this. But what I've got is I've programmed certain groups, CBC group, CDM group. We update groups. Some of these boxes will be checked. If you view it by column, you get a complete summary of all the lab data. It depends how much lab data it is, but it could take up to a minute to print. And then you get a summary of all the lab data. So that's just some extras on those. I'm going to show an invoice. When we're doing invoicing, let's go to this here. Create an invoice. We're going to go private billing. I often do 0095, 0096, 0097. So what this is file preparation, copy per page. We're going to do 10 pages here, and we're going to do 30 pages here. Prepare the invoice. Now, Oscar, once you've saved this, do you want to upgrade this group of invoices? I say yes. It now plugs in the invoice lines for each of those three. The problem with Oscar up to now is when you've saved this once, you cannot reprint this all three together. So this is an invoice. The other thing we sometimes do is if I want to put a note, I'll say account overdue. It doesn't print this line. This is hidden from the viewer. It's hidden from the print. If I do that and print it, that will now print. So that will actually print in there. Now, the big thing is when you go back to the invoice list, in Oscar, you can only do single lines. It's only the one line that will show. Every time you do it, one line will show. What the Greasemonkey does, it gives an anchor invoice. It highlights that. When you click on the anchor invoice, all three lines will show this time. So that's another way of doing it. And there's also a fairly simple script as well. If you want to create a two-line invoice, you can create a statement using this number here, 8511, 85119, with a comma, 85120, and you can create a simple two-line. And it will give you the option whether you want to make that an anchor one or not. So that was just two that I wanted to share that are very, very useful and time-saving.
Extremely useful, especially for, the common ones is sending a chart out that often has 3 different claims or 3 different fees. You can actually add way more than that. You can put a dozen independent fees onto the same invoice page if you need to and wish to. And obviously this is mainly used in private invoices, but without that, when you're trying to resend an invoice, a late payment, etc., this looks way more professional than sending 5 different pages. Some of them with only 30 cents owing.
I'll go to this one here. This is rename the labs. At present, it comes up as micro and different numbers. The labs automatically rename to CBC Lights, A1T, LFT if it's on here. So when this is saved, that will then show on the patient's e-chart as CBC, etc. So now it will be labeled as CBC Lights and not just micro. This little expand button, what happens here is sometimes I want to see all these columns, so I hit expand and all those columns open up instead of going one by one. Send email from here directly with the patient's name. And there's another little script that I'm using now because I'm doing most of the stuff by telephone. I want to send a patient a text message about 10 minutes before I'm about to speak to them. So update text message. This one I've sent already, tells me I've sent it. This one is about to be sent. I'll send this one again. That gives the patient a note on his cell phone. And there's the cell phone that says, your appointment with Dr. Hurwitz will commence shortly. So it's just a heads up to the patient so they're expecting the call. All right, that was what I wanted to share today.
There's a note here from Herb basically asking about making the consult module better by being able to pick the labs and put them in with the consult module.
Yes. Okay, what it is, are you talking with the consult? I can do that with rich text, but I haven't tried to do it in the referral page.
Yeah, Herb's note here says, can you make that lab label show up on the consult attachment picker?
I can try. I don't know. What I do is I have a separate page here. Once I've written my referral, am I sharing now or not?
No.
Let me share here.
So, well, okay, well, while you're getting that loaded up, I'm using the well version, and in the consult attachment, we have the ability to retain relabeled scan documents. So that would be your documents. We have the ability to display the labeled HL7. So that's your inbox stuff. And oddly enough, you can add e-forms too. So those three items are available in the well version.
Okay, so this is what I do with the referral. It's from there. So what I do here is I use a lot of auto hotkey. So I use certain abbreviations. I use auto hotkey a lot, and that just loads it up here. Then when I send it, I email this to the, I do a direct fax to the doc from here. When I click on that, it copies the fax, and that's the number copied into my fax. From here, I send a second fax with that. And so I have that from my e-chart. So it's not integrated into the referral page, but I do this as a separate page. And I think that's what Herb's asking.
I think he was looking for the newly named titles to the labs. Yours can easily add proper names instead of just the cryptic heading.
Okay.
In the old version of Oscar, we have the cryptic headings no matter how we relabeled them for the encounter page. But as I had stated, Well seems to have retained the new labels. Stan, do you have any tickler grease monkeys, quick pick items?
The only problem about that is it's going to show my ticklers. If I open up that screen, it's going to show my practice ticklers. So I don't want to do that.
Well, let me show you that on my screen, just within the encounter page.
Okay.
So you have to stop sharing just for a moment. Thank you. And hopefully we won't get another announcement. So I'll just navigate away. Oh, this is the attachment screen for consult letters in our pretend patient. So here's our, I guess our scan documents inbox. Here are the labs, and you can see that is not a standard cryptic, that would be probably a micro. And the e-forms for some reasons are here. But back to our e-chart, if I was to send a tickler from this patient's chart, it's usually to our MOA. So I have created, and thanks to Stan for starting me off on this, some quick pick items here. For example, if this is a female patient and she needed to come back for her recall check, it automatically inputs the MOA, the generic MOA account. We probably put in a 3-year time limit, and we just send it. That's it. I have a quick one for calling INR, and I do that, and it's sent. So this is really, really helpful. I also do prep work, and in this case, I want to remind myself that the medication is going to be due on a certain day. So I set it up so it sends to me because it's really my role and not the MOA's. So, if you ever wondered why didn't this feature exist in the first place, the developers are not clinicians. They don't know clinical workflow. We do, and if you can do it manually, you can also set up a Greasemonkey for it. And hopefully the developers know how useful these functions are and incorporate that in some manner, standardized, so that everyone can have it without having to customize it. That's my pitch for the developers out there.
And then just one word of caution: when you're exporting any Greasemonkeys, all include files, all include references are included in that export. So if you've set up passwords and you felt you've hidden them in your images file, and I do that, I reference files in my image file with my passwords. If you export it, those passwords are exported in your export zip file. And I can just show you that one moment if you can. I'll just go on to this. For example, am I sharing now?
Yeah.
Okay. For example, here's a demo. I exported this demo in the Greasemonkey. Oops, let me open it with Notepad. I'll have to do it this way. In the Greasemonkey, it refers to, oops, we'll have to open it with Notepad then. Okay, so this one references my image file because that's where my passwords are. So if you export it, your passwords will show. So that's just an example. Be careful. That's just one security issue if you export.
And that's specific for things like Care Connect and that sort of stuff.
Care Connect and also my Twilio account. So my Twilio account, I've got my password and my Twilio account, and I've referenced it as an image file in my images. But if I export it, my passwords will get exported.
But that image file exists in your Oscar, correct?
That's correct. It goes into.
So the only way they can see it is if they log into your Oscar.
That they can see it if they log into my Oscar, but if I export my Greasemonkey, the image file, and I've referenced this image file, the image file will be exported with it. So
that may not be the best practice for you.
Yeah, just to be careful. Otherwise, you export anything that's hidden in your image file that you've referenced, you will export. There we go. That's just a word, just a caution.
I have to say that, Stan, you've taken this to a whole other level.
It's been fun.
I'm at the basics and barely that. So well done.
Where do we want to go from here? Do we want to talk about how we make a Greasemonkey script work for an individual office? Do we want to look at the code and show them what parts of it have to be modified?
I can do this here. I'll show one here. Just as the bare basics of one. Let's go back to that. Let me find my share screen now. So here's a demo. I'll make it enabled. So this was just a caution. It's referencing, and you have to be careful it references. So this is the demo. It's referencing my image file. It's referencing jQuery. And these are the URL addresses that will be included. If you just put a single star, all URLs will be included. If it's star specific URL, star, just that URL will be referenced. So this is scripts that we have. This is the alert box. This is now telling me it's referencing this particular file with your personal data, just to be careful of that. This is passing parameters, which means if you want to pass, if you go onto a page, the page will say here, year equals 2021, month equals that. If you go to the button name, I've said, look for the year, this is the URL, and that's the button effect. You can actually read off those parameters. So I'll just close that. Now, when referencing Greasemonkeys here, This is how to create a button. This is how you place the button where you want it, left 100, top 200. You can change those figures and it will change the placement of the button. You can change the color of the button. You can change what the button does. This function is alert, says hello. This is now. We want to reference certain forms when loading a Greasemonkey. Each system will have a different ID for a form. This one references form ID 9999. If you go to your forms here, I'll have to switch it off. It's going to do that every time because of my star. So let's close that down. Once you're in the forms, each form will have its own ID. If you look at that here, this form is 414. When you reference a form, when we say you need to reference a form, you'll have to go to your forms and see which form number that is, the form ID number. So when I do a Greasemonkey, it will say to you, please reference the following forms.
So those, for instance, those buttons that I have in my encounter pane, I stole those from Stan, and I rejigged the scripts so that I can jump to the forms that I use in my server. So my form ID for my lab requisition or for my imaging requisition is not the same form ID as it is in John's or Stan's installation. So I borrow their scripts and then I change the form ID, the FID, to show my form instead of Stan's form. And I do that as Stan showed by clicking on the form, looking in the address line and finding out what the FID is.
That's that we can help you with if you need to set that up.
Yeah, and that's probably why the OSPs don't want any part of this. It is a headache, a big headache for them to nitpick all these details, the unique IDs, the unique account names and such, and then and they can't, unless you give them control over your computer, easily do that in this script. It does require a little bit of tinkering under the hood, which means it's not for everybody, but it also illustrates how important it is to get this into the base code so it is readily available to everybody. It is a proof of concept of features that we all need, want, and will use on a daily basis. So hopefully that inspires real developers.
So another so if I have a 2010 imaging form and then they update it in 2020 and I put that new imaging form in my server, the button that I have still points to the old imaging form. If I want the button to point to the new imaging form, I have to go back into the Greasemonkey script and change the FID to the one for the new form. There is a cheat, there is a workaround. If you are absolutely sure you're never going to use the old form, you can paste all the code from the new form into where the old form was, and it will retain the same ID, but I wouldn't recommend you do that on a regular basis. You don't always want to lose the code from the old form.
That's correct. Let's see any questions here. Did you want me to demonstrate any others, or is that overwhelming at this point?
I was thinking, can you show some minor tweaks, like just repositioning or relabeling
Sure.
a name or changing the font size or color?
Okay, sure. Let's do that. Okay, let's just go back to share screen. So here's my little Greasemonkey. There's the demo. We'll enable it. Now, because it's enabled, just to remind you, if you look at that, that says every page will show this form. Any page will show it. So if we go now to this page and refresh the page, all these things will keep coming up. That 221, okay, I should take that away. Here's the button. What I'm going to do with this form here is I'm going to just stop all those alerts so you don't see them anymore. It'll just be a bit easier. I'll leave that button in. Save it. Now the Greasemonkey is saved. So now that's still showing. There's the button. If we want to move that button, it's fixed. I'll show you what fixed means and relative. If we want to say top 300, top 400, we want to change it to yellow. Button's moved and it's here. And when you click the button, it does a function. Oh, what I also did here was this button, after you've clicked it, it changes color. These are just function. I'll show you how we get that. And it changes color. So if we go to this one here, function, when you click the button, alert, hello world, change button color, document, get ID, test button. And if you take a look here, the ID on this one is the test button. So that's what you're looking for. When you click on test button, change the color to red. We're saying open a form. Right now it's opening this form 999. I can make it open any other form. If I do that, it'll open a different form. It's going to take away the alerts so that you don't see them.
I find that customization that helps me the most is repositioning them, mainly because each of us uses a slightly different size window. So they may cover things that we need to see. So just by moving it a little bit lower, a little further to the right margin, it just kind of cleans up the display bit.
That's correct. So that's how you can move the button around. Now, one other thing is you'll see when I scroll, the button is fixed in one position. If you take that to absolute, I think it should move now. Let's take a look at that. Now it goes with your page. So those are the tweaks you can make. Position absolute, position fixed. Rearranging your button, 400 pixels from the top, 100 pixels from the left. Font size 12, font size 18. These are all tweaks you can make to it. The button a bit bigger now. Okay, so those are all tweaks you can make to the buttons. The simple tweaks. What we do. Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say the amazing thing is if you can imagine it working a certain way with enough effort and time and support, it can be done. And I said it earlier, if you ever wonder why wasn't it, why can't you do it this way instead of that way? Just express that to one of us. And hopefully we can, do a proof of concept and get the real developers to make it so for everyone.
All right, so I'll just reload that. This one, if you've got multiple columns with multiple docs, you can put the reason for the visit underneath rather than at the side. And that's just an auto reload. This is, I don't know if this is a useful Greasemonkey. Am I still sharing?
Yes.
This is pharmacy. If you want to find a pharmacy, it does that same wild search. So if you want to find all pharmacies in Langley, any pharmacy that has the word Langley will come up. Any pharmacy with the word Blundell will come up. Any pharmacy with the phone number 788 will come up. Any pharmacy with the phone number 7881 will come up. So if we do that, it's just one way of me finding pharmacies quickly. I don't know if I've shared this, Greasemonkey. It's an easy way to find pharmacies.
Yeah, I don't think you've shared that one.
It's just sometimes they say, yeah, I've got the pharmacy in Surrey on Scott Road. Okay, these are all the pharmacies I have on Scott Road.
The nice thing about the whale version, the pharmacy search or favorite pharmacy has a much improved search engine where you can search by phone number, fax number, address, name, and even partial text, which is fantastic. I don't think it's in every version of Oscar, unfortunately. I'm not sure they have shared the code with the community yet.
Another very useful Greasemonkey is if you use a Dymo label, one button to click, and that will print to my Dymo machine. It's a useful label, and it takes a bit of customization. If you do just quick things, if you do allergy injections, this is how I do my allergy shots, comes up like that. It would be bottle number 4, bottle number 4. Once we're at maintenance, just quick and easy. Easy to submit, easy to do. So these are just ideas that I would say save me up to an hour a day of time.
We did have a question about Protonmail and using the mail buttons and linking to Protonmail. I know that if you have a preferred sort of email program that you use, it does, most of the scripts just go to wherever the preferred email program is. Stan, can you comment more on that?
So let me go to that. Let's go to eChart. Let's go to Page Scraper.
Yeah, good one.
Now we go to Page Scraper. This is the language for sending an email. I just want to take that away because there's password showing. Okay. It's just window.open, mail to, and you have to set up which is your default mail program. So the link, the HTML code is mail to with an email with a subject. In order to set that up, you need to go to your preferred, am I sharing screen?
Not yet.
Oh, no, oh, sorry, let me share screen. Okay, I'm pleased because I just shared passwords. So that's something to be careful of.
Yeah.
All right. So, and it didn't show. So that's great.
No.
So window to email, the HTML code is mail to. If you type in mail to, a window open with mail to, it will open up your default email program. How do you set your default email program? Go to the defaults options, and on your options, you'll go to your default programs. Down here in the options, I'm saying mail to, use Gmail. If you're using another one, you need to set a different mail, a different default mail program. So any window open mail to in Firefox will go to the default mail program.
So you went into the browser that you use, which is Firefox. You went into the settings in Firefox. And you
Settings
made
under
sure that,
General.
yeah.
Applications. And go to Mail to.
There we go.
These are the ones that, so these are your applications. I use Adobe Acrobat as my default PDF. So these are where you set your defaults. All your viewers, what you're going to use, and do you want to save a file, open a file? So sometimes when you're opening a PDF, it disappears on you. It seems to save rather than open. This is where you need to do that. If you're opening a file and it disappears, it just goes to save, make sure that your default is set to always ask which one you want to use. So this one always asks me. It doesn't just disappear on me. This is a very useful useful area in the options. Does that answer the question about the mail too?
I'm hoping that covers it. And you would, in this person's particular case, they would want to try to select Protonmail as their mail program in their browser.
Correct.
And then they should be able to use any of the scripts that you've written, and it would automatically go to their preferred mail browser.
That's correct. It's a use other, and they'd have to say which one they wanted to use there.
Right. Oh, if you have, Herb's typing here, if you have multiple Gmail accounts, open the Office Gmail account first before you open your personal Gmail account, and your mail will open to the Office account first. So I guess
Correct.
What Herb's saying is that when, at the beginning of the day, when you go to check your emails for the first time, you should be opening up your Office email account when you open it up.
Correct. In Firefox, I've set my default mail as my office mail. In Chrome, I've set my default mail as my personal mail. And that way it goes to the right email account.
And John Y's power is going on his laptop, so he may not be with us too much longer.
I see that. Okay. Yeah, feel free to contact me offline if you want some help with that.
And I will remind people that the discussion groups always have lurkers on them. And so if you send something out to a discussion group, it doesn't go into thin air. There's a lot of people reading and watching, and there's often a reply. So a discussion group, if you can't find someone's email, send it out to the discussion group, and it's probably going to get to the right person.
And as I said, a lot of my work, a lot of my ideas on how to do the programming comes from Stack Overflow. You search for it. Stack Overflow has wonderful tips.
Stan, why don't you just take us to GitHub for a minute?
Let's get there. Let me just see what I've done now.
So much like Oscar Canada and World Oscar, Stan has a repository, there we go, on GitHub. And if you want something that's already been made and you saw it today, this is the place to go to get it.
If you want to, let's take this GM. To find it, you can also do Control Find, and you just say demo. It will find anything with the word demo. Just let's find it. So anything with the demo will come up here. I just want to see if I've got that in here. No, I don't have that one. I'll go to allergies. So if I go to allergies, I've color coded mine, just how many days ago I changed it, how many months ago I changed it. So it's color coded. click on allergies. It will take you to it. Here's the script. To install the script, click on Raw. It will ask you whether you do want to install or cancel. If you install it, we'll install it directly into your Firefox from here. So that will install directly. You can cancel. This is something else I've done, but you don't need to. If you've got multiple ones you want to do, I've just allowed it to do it that way. And that's just something else if you've got multiple files that you want to install. But the easiest way is just to go to the Greasemonkey and click on Raw. You can read the script here.
So I'm just putting on the chat the web link to your GitHub page, and then people be able to explore and have a look and see what they want to download. But yeah, Stan's got a lot of lovely scripts there. Click on it, click on Raw, and it comes into your system. And once you've set up one computer the way you like it, you can export the whole group of that to the next computer.
And what it will do, it will install it directly here. And if you open it, it'll also tell you, if you can go and look at it, it says which version you've just installed. I do try and update the numbers if I've changed the program. And you can always uninstall. One thing that I would caution, this is just user script options. Don't do an auto update enabled, because if I change it on my GitHub page, it will change it on your page. John, do you know that function?
Yeah, I actually have turned it off on mine because I've had a couple of oopses with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I mean, sometimes it's good, but sometimes you want the old one back, and it's gone.
Absolutely, because if I upgrade it on the GitHub, it will upgrade on yours. So do make sure that auto update is disabled. Just so if something seems to be going wrong with your scripts, just watch out for that. It has a lot of quirks that we have to be, little fine nuances that we have to be careful about.
And some of it, of course, is where are things in Oscar, and knowing where things are to reference them can be a bit challenging and sometimes counterintuitive. And so writing the script to make it run properly can take some trial and error.
And I'll give you an example of that, John. Sometimes you look at my scripts and you'll see a lot of gobbledygook. And that is if I find a button I need to reference that I just cannot reference in any way. If I look at that, I look at the button, I inspect, this is how I do it. I go to that button, right click, inspect element. So that's the button. You can see what the button is called. You can see it's href. But if you actually want to find this button, it's sometimes really hard. So what I do in that circumstances, if I just cannot reference the button, I go here, right click, and inspect element, right click on the element, and then we copy the selector. If you copy the selector, you'll sometimes see this, and that tells you what button you look for. But occasionally you'll get what looks like gobbledygook, and that is different for every setup. For example, if I'm referencing some of these measurements, if I'm going to reference these measurements and I want to reference this particular box, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4. In your own setup, it might be a different box, a different number. Those are all the quirks we have to do. So if you want to know what that box number is, You can right click on it, inspect the element. Input value will be input value, that will be box 30. You click on that one, inspect element, input value is 27. So that's how you can find the box you need to reference. Every setup will be different. So to get to those, right click, inspect element.
And it is one of the reasons why what works in my system may not work in Stan's and vice versa. And there's a lot of debugging because each Oscar instance has been customized. Each OSP has done something potentially unique. It's one of the problems we have when you move away from the base code.
Yeah. I noticed that our participants number is dropping slightly. So
Yeah.
I think we need to look at how much longer we're going before we wrap this up.
Yeah, I think it might be a bit of overwhelming now, a bit of overload.
It is. And I'm at 6% power. So if I don't wrap up soon, it's going to wrap up for me.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of individualization. If you need help, let me know. Let me just share this here. Okay. Just my email address.
Oh yeah, Stan's just put his email address for anybody that wants to connect with him.
Yes, and please contact us at Oscar BC as well, info@oscarbc.ca, and we can get your request out to the best person.
For sure, for sure.
So I'm not best at explaining it, so I'll write them, but I get John and John to help with the explanations. They do a better job than I do with the explaining.
That's why we did this as a group. It's much better when we collaborate.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, guys, thanks.
Indeed. No more burning questions. If there are, please send them to Oscar BC or to us individually. I can't promise I can write any of these scripts de novo, but I know how to customize them now. I'll thank Stan for being so innovative. And, if there's the necessity is mother of invention, he certainly invented and created a lot of useful features.
All right.
Yeah,
Off into the sunshine for those of us on the West Coast.
wonderful.
I gotta go. I got 3%
Thanks.
power. See everybody. Nice to
Thank you,
have a great
John.
weekend.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, John and Stan, very much for your